Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Ski Instructor Podcast. My name's Dave Burrows and I'm the director and owner of Snowpro Ski School based here in the Port du Soleil in Switzerland. Hope you're all well. The ski season has just about calmed down for us. March is looking like a pretty chilled out month. We had a really long period of extremely hot weather, which means that a lot of our clients have kind of thought more or less that there's no snow left, but actually it snowed a lot in the end of Jan, early part of February. I remember consecutive days where I'm just shoveling snow to try and get out of my house. And so as such, there's a lot left. And in fact, I went up last night about 4 o'clock with my daughter to go and ski in La Crozet. I pick her up from crash and we go and we ski a few laps before the lifts close. And the snow was actually amazing. It was like the morning, hardly anyone skied on it, and it was in really, really good condition. So some good end of season skiing to be had here in the Port du Soleil. This week I bring you an interview with Federico Sollini of Subzero Coaching in Zermatt. Fede runs a business there, sort of dealing with instructor training and performance coaching. He's also on the education committee for the Irish Association of Ski Instructors. He's originally, as you might tell from the name, Italian. So I wanted to interview. I first met Fede on a while back on a Swiss Snow Sports Directors course, and I wanted to interview him for some time because I think he gives an interesting perspective on skiing and sort of physical training, and it's come out as a very, very good interview. So in part one we talk about his background and formation in skiing, and then we go on to quite a long chat about a comparison of national systems and why national systems develop like they do. The person whose name I forgot in the first part of this interview is of course Fabrizio Pervan, who runs Evolution Ski School in Zermatt. Hi Fabrizio, I hope you're well. I also met him on the director's course as well. Lovely guy, and you should check out both of these people if you're skiing in Zermatt. So enjoy this first half, and I'll catch up with you in the middle. Federico Sollini, welcome to the Ski Instructor Podcast. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me here. Thank you very much. It's nice to finally be able to chat a bit.
Yeah, likewise. It's been a long time. We met on the Swiss Snow Sports Ski School Directors course. It was a long time ago now, that course, and yeah, we had very, very pleasant, I think it was 2 days, maybe 3, not sure. Mm-hmm. Going through all of the various bits and pieces you have to do to be qualified to be a ski school director here in Switzerland. And and it was, good day, good course actually. And I saw on the glacier in Zermatt in November, I think it was, who was the other Italian guy you were with? I can't remember his name. It's just escaped me.
There are a couple that I ski with.
He runs a ski school there. Oh no, I'm gonna have to do some clever editing to get his. Anyway, caught up with him on the glacier. He was on that course as well, and it was lovely to kind of to meet up with him as well. So, how's things in Zermatt? How's it going? Your season so far?
Things are going fine. We had a few days where obviously we got dumped on with snow, which was always good news. It came all at once, and because of the shape of the mountains around the village and especially around the valley, we actually got snowed in again. I think we made national, or at least on some websites we made news, but we had 24 hours, maybe 36, where neither the railway coming to Zermatt nor the road were open. So we had to juggle a bit the reserves in the supermarkets and so on.
Yeah.
But But actually, this time around skiing, this time around, I mean, 4 years ago, the story that I'm referring to is 4 years ago, we actually got snowed in properly to the point that we couldn't go in or out for 2.5 days, I believe. Yeah. And we couldn't ski either because we had rain before the snow, and so the pack was very unstable. Yeah. This time around, the pack was more stable, even though we reached level 5 danger. Avalanche danger. So we couldn't really go off piste or access the higher parts of the mountain, but overall, skiing was possible. And now everything is going back to normality. Today, I think, is the first. Yesterday was sunny, and so Sunday was sunny. Mm-hmm. So we meant to have a good day out. Yesterday, actually, the weather came in, and we had some issues, and then today still clouds going around, but at least as far as I'm aware, everything is going back to normality.
Well, that's good. I think you're right. I mean, I remember that thing of 4 years ago. It was particularly weak. Weak snowpack, and Zermatt was cut off for a number of days, and it did make big news, didn't it? But I guess it's a question of avalanches coming down and blocking the shuttle railway that goes through. Is that right?
Yeah. Coming from the experience we had 4 years ago, I think this time people or at least locals kind of expected it. We were better prepared overall. Mm-hmm. There was nothing we could do on the episode 4 years ago. The road that goes between Zermatt and Visp, which is the first big town at the end of the full valley, has up to 200 points where either a landslide or an avalanche can hit. So it is sketchy best of times when the weather doesn't collaborate.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Now, how did you... So what we always do with a podcast, and I think a lot of podcasts follow this same format, but I'd love to get to know a little bit more about your background, because you're Italian. I think, mm-hmm. I'm not sure exactly where you're in it. I'm going to hazard a guess, but I think you're not from the mountainous region originally, are you? Is that right to say?
Yeah, it's correct. I am from the second mountain range of the peninsula of Italy. So you have the Alps in the north, obviously, mm-hmm. Which are the most known, and then from the Liguria region, dropping down all the way to Sicily, you have the Apennines, mm-hmm. or Appennini, which peak in the middle of the boot, in the middle of Italy, at 3,000 something meters. Okay. But my region, I'm from Bologna, is my home city, and my mountains reach 2,000 meters. So they're more big hills rather than, especially when you compare them to the mountains here in Zermatt.
Well, 2,000 meters is pretty much near the top of the Porte du Soleil, so there's pretty big mountains as far as we're concerned here. But okay. Oh, that's cool. And what then drew you? I don't know. Did you start skiing there? Was that what was? How did you get into skiing originally? Or
I started skiing with my family for with ski holidays. Standard procedure for many, really. Mm-hmm. And not in my region, because my parents were really adamant that the mountains on my region weren't that attractive, and within a 2 hours drive you can be in the Alps. So we actually skied a lot in Madonna di Campiglio in the Dolomites. Okay. Which is where I've done years-wise the most part of my childhood skiing. Mm-hmm. And then we moved for a few long ski trips and ski experiences, if you want to call it like that, with ski clubs and so on, in Ortisei and Selva di Val Gardena, where they run the World Cup race. Okay. And then at 18, I went to uni, which went fine for the exams that I was able to take, but motivation wasn't really high. Okay. I was on a course Well, it wasn't even the course. It was the how the university course some are run in Italy, where you don't have compulsory presence at the lectures nor the exams. So that really didn't work out well for me.
Okay.
So at that point, I needed a break, and luckily for me, my family wasn't too against it, and so I thought, okay, I'll take a couple of months off from uni, and I'll go do at least the first couple of months of a season and get my level 1 and level 2. And that was in 2006.
Is this level 1 and 2 in which particular instructor system?
At the time, I actually went for BASI because in Italy, I don't know if you know how the Italian system works, but it is actually quite a big commitment that didn't really match with what my timeline was. I was not going to convince my parents to take a year and a half off in order to pursue, in one go, in order to pursue the ski instructor thing. And so 2 months were more reasonable. Okay. So I went for level 1 and 2 in Verbier, actually.
All right, okay.
That's where my Swiss adventure started from.
Fantastic. And then where did that take you after that? I mean, did you? Because I suppose we'll come across this, come more into this later. But you've also got an element to kind of what it is that you do. You're much more into kind of physio, how the body works, that kind of stuff, in addition to the skiing. So did you then head back to university, or what was your journey after the initial instructor training there?
In my first season, then when February came around and I passed the level 2, I got a job offer straight away. Mm-hmm. I stayed for the rest of the season, so it turned out to be a 5 months rather than a 2 months break.
That's all right.
Actually, it turned out all right.
Yeah.
But anyway, you always need to take a gamble. So
you never know. This is what life teaches you, I think, and you never know. You set out on a course, and you never know where you're going to end up, do you? Or where certain things are going to take you. You can try and predict it, but it never ends up like that. I'm looking now at right in front of me. I've now got my office back. So I was sharing an office with Mrs. Burrows downstairs while my mother-in-law was here for a bit. But now I've got my office back, and all of this kind of stuff is in front of me. So if you could see the wall of my office, it's kind of just covered in paper and plans and plotting and all sorts of bits and pieces. And I'm looking at the list of ski instructors that I thought I would have at the start of this season, and it bears no relation at all to the people that I've now got working this season. It always changes, and it changes all the time. And you can try and predict as much as you want, but it just never works out like that. It's really strange. Well, it's not strange, I suppose. You just get used to it. Yeah. Okay, so 5 months in Verbier, and then what?
So I finished my season. Yeah, I finished my season, and then I went back home. And I went back to uni, and parallel to that, I started taking my personal trainer qualification. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to come from a city in Bologna where we have a big sports scene. And you can appreciate, at least I did appreciate that way later. Mm-hmm. Coming from a place, sometimes you lose sight of what you have and what you don't. Anyway, I ended up working straight away with a professor called Romano Franchi, who used to be head coach for different professional teams and professional athletes. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to catch him when he retired from traveling around Italy and Europe with teams. And he was retiring from that job, but still involved in training professional athletes. So my adventure with strength and conditioning coaching, which is what I then qualified as later on the year after, started parallel to the ski instructor job. So from then we worked together for 3 summers. And I got exposed to professional athlete training. So we had teams. Basketball team. Bologna has 2 Premier League. What you would call Premier League basketball teams, and with volleyball a little bit. We trained the national American football team, well, the team of Bologna that is in Premier League again.
Wow.
And then we had quite an interesting series of professional athletes that were involved in individual sports. In endurance, we had triathletes and marathons athletes, and then we had tennis players, boxers, boxing, and then motorsports, 24-hour Le Mans driver, and dirt bike rider, national level, and then obviously we had skiers, one of which is actually quite famous, was. After his retirement, it was Alberto Tomba. And so, he was exposed from the get-going to quite an elite professional athlete environment. And it was very formative, also because I was way younger than the youngest one. Yeah. I was 21, 22, 23, and the youngest one was in the mid-30s. So it was very interesting, and it served me well for the future, for a bit of humbleness and also obviously learning the job. Yeah. The two always went parallel: my ski instructor qualifications and then the coaching career and the strength and conditioning coaching.
Well, I think what we'll do, because that's hugely interesting, because I think you're coming to then skiing with a whole different, I wouldn't say different way of, it might even be a different way of thinking, but a whole different kind of perspective that probably most ski instructors going through their formation, they pick up a bit of that stuff, but maybe that isn't, half of the thing that they do. So we'll definitely come back to that, but let's finish off what happened to the rest of your kind of ski instructor journey. So you've done the Basic 1 and 2, the next winter comes around, so where do you go from there?
I trained, I was lucky enough to have a group of people around me that did the gap course with me, what is the that stayed, and so together we skied quite a bit during the next winter, and at the end of it I proposed to jump onto the Canadian level 3 that at the time was still organized. I think it was the last year that it was organized in Verbier.
Okay.
And so a bit by chance and a bit by curiosity, I got involved in the level 3 and passed it. And I got a job offer at the end of that season from the examiners to go to Whistler. I'm still a bit gutted that I didn't accept it. Yeah, it worked out with family issues that I had the year after, luckily and unluckily. But because the year after I could see myself staying in Switzerland, it made sense to then say, okay, pick one association and finish your education, and so I did so with Swiss Snow Sports. Okay. The year after, I started all my second discipline, my mountain safety, my technical teaching levels with Swiss Snow Sports.
Okay. So for you, it was a conscious decision that Switzerland was in your future, so that it made more sense to you in a similar way that it did for me to be Swiss Snow Sports qualified.
Yeah. There were definitely two sides of it. One was I'm in Switzerland. I should get going with the education that I can get here. I am obviously Italian. I speak English, Italian and French. So I had choices of venues and courses and so on. Yeah. And the other was the fact that I really liked the way the Swiss skied. I had a good friend, Andrea Bionda, who's still around, who took me a little bit under his wing and helped me skiing. The TD at the time, Michel Marais, was also a very good skier and a very good trainer. And so we got a bit together, and I had the chance to ski with them and follow their guidance a bit. And so I was actually, inspired by the way the Swiss put their pathway together, not just about the usual longs and shorts and bumps and variables, but also all the different skills, forms that are there in order to showcase different skills, like the short turns variations, the carving variations, or the jumping stuff, the GS and the slalom together, not just one or the other. It was quite inspiring to see these guys skiing so well and be so polyvalent rather than a bit rigid in one thing. And so it was a good journey. It was intense, but a good journey.
It's there's something in their skiing, isn't there, that is, it's so hard to put your finger on what it is exactly, but a lot of that stuff that's in their formation, all of that agility stuff, definitely adds into the pot in terms of what goes into making a Swiss style, if you like. But it's amazing to me to see the sort of the fluidity, which even the top skiers in any given village all ski with the same sort of, the same sort of freedom and style, Like I ski a lot in a little tiny village called Morjan. It's not, it's like 1,200 people there. It's not very big. It's not what you call a big centre of anywhere. But I know 3 or 4 people in that, 5 at least, in that village who would ski the socks off of anyone in some of the other instructor systems. And it's that's just a small kind of backwater in Switzerland to a certain extent. It's amazing the skiers that they produce and that their system produces. Yeah,
it's. I think there is a strong note on, can you do everything? As a 20-something-year-old, I thought, wow, these guys always try to see if they can actually get this done, not just limiting. I think it's a mindset. It's not limiting yourself to what is required as a minimum in terms of overall, not just the level of what you do, but how many other things can you learn and perform. And it was inspiring. It still is. And then obviously certain things changed, but the backbone of the education that they provide is still the same. Once you reach the high levels, I think all associations tend to align, in my experience at least. Maybe we can go through that as well later on. Having being exposed to different associations is interesting, also because of that, because you can try, at least for me, it was, okay, let's see if an education pathway requires individuals to go through certain things. Which kind of output does it produce in the end, And it kind of changes as you go through. If you stop at level 2, you have a certain output. If you stop at level 3, if we go through 4 levels kind of education. And then, in my experience, once you reach the level 4, as in the full cert, there is way more alignment in terms of what can those performance create in terms of output. Everyone is very highly skilled.
Okay. I agree with you in some ways and not others. But for example, the heavy emphasis in Swiss snow sports, for example, on being able to ski backwards at a high level. That, for example, is not in the BASI level 4, for example. That kind of free run concept, that I think I've talked about on here before, where in your free run, you've done it, and so have I. There's got to be 4 carve switch turns or whatever like that. I've never seen anything like that in BASI. BASI is just like long turns, short turns. That's it. There's no, they're very very rigid in terms of what they examine on. In that regard, but certainly I suppose you're right. Like at the top level, all the good skiers are good skiers, and then I guess it just comes down to sort of national stylistic kind of things. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing to a certain extent. It's just kind of then you've got these sort of cultural things that come through in people skiing. That means that, all Italians look a certain way, all Swiss look a certain way, all British guys ski a certain way. Like that obviously comes through from somewhere. Do you see what I mean? That's what it looks like to me.
Is very true. I think is interesting to see why, or at least to try to analyze why certain decisions are made and certain outputs are achieved. For example, with the Swiss, they only 2 or 3 years ago, they introduced a specific module for racing and for freestyle. Before you have any kind of coaching or any kind of dedicated qualification or courses for either of these two. Quite simply, because they were at least in my opinion, they were including elements of both in each of their level. Beside the entry level of the Swiss education, your second and third level have GS race. So what's a race component, another race component if I already cover it there. Same with the freestyle. The Italians used to do the same as well. The Italians used to not have any freestyle component at all in their education system. I don't know if you had people in the podcast talking about how the Italian education is structured. It's very different from anywhere else in the world, really. And so the majority of instructors are not asked or not pushed to get those skills developed. They might have it because they're passionate, or because they have a background, because they get interested later on, but the education system doesn't require them to focus on it. There is more requirement towards giant slalom, for example, which is also why the Italian system, you go through it only on giant slalom skis, whether they are 30 meters or the more tourist-oriented, 18, 20, whatever. But you do education only on GS skis. The Swiss, for example, you do all your education on slalom skis because of those requirements, matching the requirements that the education system.
Yeah. That's interesting. Do you mind if we digress into the Italian system? Do you? Because I think while we've got an Italian on, it might as well be worth us talking about it. But as I understand it, the entry level, as in to get into the system in Italy, is the Eurotest, is that the case? Correct.
Yeah. Since early 2000, I'm not going to give you the exact date because I don't recall it right now. Since when the Eurotest got implemented in some countries in Europe with the EU and so on, the Italians have always required an entry test in order for you to access the education pathway. So still today you have to go through 2 stages. One is the Eurotest. Once you pass that, you're then allowed to enter the second stage of selection, it's called, which are free field, what they call it, or campo libero. So you have the examiners at the bottom, and you have to do a short-term run, a carving run, Cristiani Avanzata, which some in Anglo-Saxon, in English-speaking systems called advanced parallel.
Okay.
And I think there is another run which is like mixed turns of sorts. So they give you a pitch and they go, okay, go for it.
Yeah.
And after that, after these 2 filters, you enter the education. By law, the education, it needs to be at least 90 days of education in at least a year and a half. At the end of the education, you pass another Eurotest, and then you're fully qualified maestro di sci.
Wow. Wow, that's completely different to anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I was saying. Yeah. I have the pleasure to work with a lot of Italian instructors and coaches because we collaborate, training instructors and so on.
Yeah.
And some are against, many are pro. But again, more than the political or personal choice of being pro and against, every system needs to match with the demand of the environment and the culture that they are within. in Italy, the ski instructing job is a recognized profession. That's why you have an albo, you have a register for in each region where you have your name listed. And each region at the end of or beginning of the year or whatever, the summer, they officialize how many places they have available for you to operate in the region, and therefore how many places the education system should provide the region, make sense, in order to work.
Oh, wow.
And so there is that element, and then there's another element. Everyone in Italy wants to be a ski instructor. If you ski, you want to be a maestro. Whether you're from Sicily or from Val d'Aosta, every Italian wants to be. So you have maybe not 60 million people, which is the population of Italy, but you have thousands. Thousands of people that are aspire to get into the profession. And therefore you have a huge pool of people that you can choose from. So if you have that, then you may as well start, just like you do in med school. You don't get everyone into med school. You select at the beginning through tests, which are by definition arbitrary. You try to make them as in the running of them, you try to make them as fair as possible. But how you test people, someone needs to sit down and go, okay, this is how you test them. And then after that, you may as well just select the good ones, in your opinion. What good is opinionable, but whatever. But then, you see what I mean? So what's the point of getting someone that is average, in inverted commas, when you pick the best 10 of the region? You may as well just start from the best 10 skiers, so that hopefully in your education, the time you spend educating these people, you don't have, or you probably shouldn't focus too much on technical again, because if they can pass a Euro test and then a free run or a series of free runs, they should be all right. That's why you're testing them. So you can maybe focus a bit more on their teaching, on their those skills rather than technical.
It's a really good filter, isn't it? Because like that Eurotest barrier immediately eliminates everyone from like Milan and Turin and all the big cities. So then you kind of it's you get the good guys, right? You get the guys who grew up racing. It's just, we've talked about this before on the podcast. You get the guys who were in ski club and raced at a regional level or something like that, at a reasonable level. That's what the Eurotest is. You could see why that filter would be in place. I totally get it. Now,
and then one can opinionate, but are you only testing the technical abilities and not the teaching ability, which is evidently true, because there's no teaching assessment in the selection. So that's where, even in Italy, you have old and younger instructors going, well, maybe there is a better way of selecting. And that we could discuss that, but the AMSI, the Italian Association, has decided to select that way. The French, I believe, do something similar, but then you have the stagiaire stage, which in Italy doesn't really exist. You either are in or out.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you.
That, we can, opinions, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so. I have to ask the question about the myth. I don't know whether it's a myth or not, but someone said to me there's no assessment for moguls whatsoever in the Italian formation system, and I can't believe that. But this is the one that I hear often, that there's no moguls in the Italian formation system. But who knows? Do you know?
It depends. So there is a component. You're not completely off the. You're not only on groomers. But compared to other education systems, you have way less. Because the focus is not so much there. You have your variables, you have your bit of off-piste, you have your avalanche training because you have to with the EMS. All the Italian all the Italians must pass the EMS. So they have to be able to ski off piste. They have to know their mountain safety regulations and how to use the AVI kit and so on. So it is off piste. You can't really go away from it.
Yeah.
Focus though is not as great. Is not as how are you saying? It's not as big as that associate.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. So we've touched on Italian skiing culture. I mean, you've spent time in the Swiss system. You spent time in the Canadian system. You spent time, looking at. You've been in Basel a little bit as well. We've talked about at the upper levels. It kind of tends to even out a little bit. What do you, out of those three systems that you've spent the time in, is everyone essentially talking about the same thing, but using different words? Because that's what it looks like to me. And I've spent some time reading the Basel manual, the Swiss manual, and the Irish manual, and we're all doing the same thing and just putting different labels on it, aren't we? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
There's no one reinventing the wheel, is there? That's what I'm saying.
I think is for a comparison. I think is easier to go to broaden the horizon a bit and go. If you play basketball, the ring, the hop, whatever, the hoop is always at the same height, and the field is always on the same size. Whether you play in the NBA or in Europe or in Serbia, where they have a great basketball history. The field is the same. And the same is for skiing. You still are the same person working under the same laws of gravities and on the same snowpack. Whether it's icy or soft, we have a bit more range, but in the end, you have the same bodies trying to perform the same thing in the end, physics-wise. Yeah. It might vary a bit when you broaden the horizon again. If you are from Japan, where you have 15 meters of snow, or you are from my region, where last year we had 30 centimeters of snow. You're nice. Wherever you go, and in my region, 90% of the time you'll be skiing on marble, not really snowpack. So that will change a little bit the focus of the education system itself, but in the end, we have to align. The sport is the same, at least in my experience. It's whether you want to put more focus on one bit over the other of the same sport, and skiing is pleasant because you have a broad field of performance that you can cover. You can be a bit more of freestyle, you can be a bit more racy in terms of gates, or because we're not just sportsmen, but we're also teachers. There is also there might be a different focus on which kind of service do you want your instructors to provide in your nation or in your resort, and so on. All in circles, isn't it? I think so. I remember talking to, I can't remember who it was that we talked about on a previous podcast about this, but you're right. There is, for example, if you look at the US, there's a lot of client focus kind of aspect to what it is that they do, but also when you look at the snow in certain parts of the US, it's different to what that you might, the requirements that the clients might want to do. And you think about, how their whole mountain is sort of avalanche controlled, say. So people are much more interested in kind of getting off, I wouldn't say off the beaten tracks, but certainly into the trees, into the side country and whatever. And maybe your system kind of allows a little bit for that, like in an environment like that, where you're getting a lot of snow and, people want to access the off-piste because that's what the client wants in that country. Your system might develop in a way that allows the teachers to deliver that to the clients. Whereas if you take that same thing and you transport it to, say, I don't know,
I'm just going to pull something out of the air, right? Austria, say, where there's much more focus and awareness on something like the World Cup. So people might want to be trying to emulate, say, Marcel Hirscher or something. So your system might grow up there, or develop there, where it's much more about performance or carving or edging or that kind of stuff. And so that set, in the same way that the formation develops for the instructors and the tests and stuff that the instructors have develops according to what the nation wants, the system will also develop in the other way to deliver what it is that maybe the client group wants to be taught. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I very much agree. We all need to fit with expectations that the majority of our clientele has. North America in general has a strong component on teaching and customer care, because North Americans have an expectation on a certain customer care to be delivered a certain way. And it's the same wherever you go, in Austria, in Italy, and so on. I, for example, work with North American qualified instructors and coaches and so on. And they have to fit with that kind of expectation. They talk about not giving, for example, just as a little example that narrows down a bit the general conversation. Don't give this trend in North America of not try to avoid to give a bad negative feedback. As in, rather than saying you're doing this wrong, you should say, okay, try to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if this can be an interesting, but in Italy, for example, an Italian guest will want you to tell him, her, what is happening wrong and what needs to be done right. So there's none of that shit sandwich.
There's no sugarcoating feedback.
The bread it can be very thin. Because the expectations are there, you know what I mean? We like our bread, but it can be crusty. It's all right. It doesn't need to be soft.
I didn't know that you had that in your culture in Italy. Like I didn't realise that they were quite direct like that. Like we have that. It's a source of frustration in my household, because obviously I'm British, and my wife is originally from Romania. And they are extremely direct. So your Romanians, like Latin types, they would just tell you exactly what it is to your face, with no sugarcoating at all. Whereas the British, it's really funny. Like I was teaching some British people at the weekend, and you'd say something like that's interesting, or that was interesting. Like that as a phrase to another British person they would know what that means, but it certainly doesn't mean that was interesting. We never say what we mean, and I'm sure you know this because
it's something I have to learn.
Yeah. So it drives my wife bananas because we never say what we mean at all. There's this sort of secret code that underlines everything that we talk about. But I had no idea that the Italians were quite sort of direct like that. Is that how it is?
Yeah. I mean, for us, so. The Brits, for a foreigner, the Brits tend to be a bit roundabout things. And no bad thing for what concerns a lot of situations, really. There's no reason to be too blunt when you can be a bit rounder in the way you put yourself across.
Yeah.
But for a foreigner, that a lot of times, either not perceived, as in we struggle to understand the point, or is perceived as, mate, you just could tell me the truth. You're not lying, but you're just hiding a bit. So,
yeah.
With that, this is also why it's come across as either negative or blunt or a bit, I don't know if we can swear, but you can imagine what I'm looking for. To Brits, because there is this tendency of being way too blunt and way too passive about things, but it's not actually meant to be that way. Sometimes it is, which is why also, for example, the French tend to have a bad reputation amongst the Brits. Italians have a bad reputation amongst the Brits because unfortunately not many of us speak fluent English, and so when you are trying to express yourself this way and you don't master the language, it's very easy to come across in the wrong way.
Yeah. I'll hear you. Yeah. Well, you've got two people trying to learn Italian at the moment. That's it's next on our language list for my daughter. So we've got the podcast going in the car. So we've progressed to being able to say hello, goodbye, and my name is lesson 2. So that's where we're at right now. I think it's important, right?
Sorry.
It's important. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry is not a word I use as often in Italian.
I can well imagine. Yeah. It doesn't exist in French that much either. Like, it exists, but they don't use it very often. They'd much rather use the word excuse rather than désolé. That does not exist at all. Yeah.
That's something that still strikes me. My world is in English. I speak in English with my girlfriend. That's our language. Always, pretty much all my life, besides when I go back to Italy. My brother lived in Australia, so a lot of times we actually use English to express ourselves better in certain occasions. But sorry is one of those things that still 15 years down the line still strikes me. It's like, oh boy, I hear sorry all day if I am.
Wow. It's funny, you don't notice.
You go back home.
Yeah.
You do the same. I do the same to my friends, and they go, "Mate, can you stop saying sorry?"
Oh man,
what are you using yourself for?
I totally agree. It drives me bananas when I go back to the UK. It's like, what are you sorry about? Stop saying sorry, everyone. It's crazy because you just don't hear that word over here. Not in French, anyway, for sure. It's
there you go. So it is that cultural thing that will dictate how the education system will need to shape itself in order to match the demand. Italy, no one wants to be, or only the minority wants to be a free rider. Everyone wants to be a bit of a racer, a bit of the next Alberto Tomba, or now that we have a very good female squad, the next Sofia Gotti or Federica Brignone.
The female squad at the moment in the World Cup is just killing it. They're just amazing. There's like a real crop that's all come through at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's not actually. Yeah, it has a strong foundation there. You know, when you have a good team that have individuals that can compete with each other at a high level, the average level will rise, and so our girls are doing really well also because of that. A lot, when you are an elite sports person, a lot needs to align. Injury first, thinking of Sofia Goggia, who just broke her. But if you have people around you that are competitive, then you are most likely able to achieve your maximum or a high potential for yourself and so on. We have the opposite situation with the boys. Talking of racing, the boys are actually struggling a bit. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm amazed that there's not more Stalemers coming through, because you've still got Manny Mogg still going. He's like 40 or something like that. It's absolutely crazy. But he's still regularly putting it in the top 15. So why would you give up? It's up to the young guys to try and come through, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you'll be amazed. Well, probably not amazed, but yeah, there is a lot of talk about this. They're getting a lot of crap, the boys, for not performing, and the Italians do not accept poor performances, and poor is anything but first 10. And Manfred is the only one that, Manfred's still going, but only because his 40 is. Okay, Manfred, well. If he had half of his age, it would be a disappointment, probably.
Yeah, I hear you. Do they have the same? A lot is made or was made. This is a real digression, but like in terms of football, back in the 90s and stuff, when English football was sort of still full of a sort of drinking culture and they weren't very professional, and then you looked across the channel at like the Italians and stuff, and they were ultra professional about their football and stuff. Does that general sort of sporting ethos go all the way through into skiing as well? Like it's how would you say? Like it's not that it's not serious, but they take that same level of professionalism that they have. Is that the same across all sports as it is in football?
I mean, there are some sports where people are more relaxed, but everyone, when you try to do your best, you're always gonna end up in a bit of a serious mode. Italians have to learn a lot from North Americans, for example, and I'm not the only one that says this. Trying to take yourself a little bit more, a bit lighter.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, from the 90s, from late 80s into the 90s, especially because of Alberto Tomba, the expectations on ski clubs and coaches and athletes has rised.
Yeah.
A lot. To the point that my generation, when we were kids, the vast majority actually of my generation actually got alienated by it, because there was a lot of pressure in trying to perform and achieve. You either have the bunch that, the little ski club that was lucky enough in a way to have a coach that took himself or herself a little more, a little lighter. But on average, you would have a lot of pressure. The coaches will be pretty hard on you. I was chatting to a girl, a colleague that is slightly younger than me. She's 29, 30, and she was saying, she needed a few years after she got out of the sport because she had enough of it.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example. She peed herself a few times because she wasn't allowed to go in. This is the standard that we were on, and she's from my region, so we're not alpine. If you still consider us not alpine, that was the attitude back then. You just keep powering through. Shut up, get going.
Wow.
To the point that the poor girl. And to me, that is taking things out of proportion, way out of proportion. Which child deserves that treatment? So, to answer your question, yes, and also to an extreme end, they go way too serious with things.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's hard to find the balance sometimes.
I always get a big kick out of talking to Italians. I think they've got such a sort of joy for life, and that really comes through in this interview with Fede, and I very, very much enjoyed having this chat with him. I really, really enjoyed during this conversation that sort of idea that national styles develop in the way that they do to serve the needs of their market, and I think that's really, really important. And you can break that down at a more individual level, with your own ski school or your own business or whatever it is. You really drill down and you find out who your clients are. You make sure that your marketing and all of your message is kind of targeted to those clients, and that's something that I'm really, really focused on, and we're going to be doing a lot of work at Snow Pros on that over the summer to make sure that we really, really understand who our clients are and what their needs are. So I received a couple of more bits of correspondence. Thank you, Michael, for taking the time to write to me. Michael gave me a lovely email about sort of the instructors that he had experienced over the years. Some good, some bad, and I never really like to hear stories about sort of rubbish ski instructors, but they do exist. And if you are one of them, up your game. I'm sure you're not if you're really listening to this. But lovely email from Michael, so thank you very, very much for getting in touch. And the second one was from David Cousins. David was just getting in touch with me about the interview with Giles, and he was saying that he himself, during his basic training, has lapped the S bumps many, many, many times, and a lovely email from him. So thank you, David. Lovely of you to get in touch too. In part 2 of this podcast, we talk a little bit more about the Irish Association and Fede's role on the education committee. We then go on to talk about his business Subzero, and the last bit, which I think is definitely worth a listen, because it's super interesting, is about agility versus strength for the ski instructor or the athlete, and that's something that I'm quite sort of focused on personally in my own skiing, because I've gone away from trying to be strong. I'd much rather try and be sort of lean and agile, and that's the way that I'm trying to take my body. Really, I'm trying to sort of slim down and be quicker on my feet than just a kind of big block of well, no one would really call me a big block of muscle, but focusing more on strength and being heavier. I think actually for the skiing that I do, it's more of benefit for me to be lighter and quicker on my feet. So that was my summer focus, and it seems to have paid dividends this winter. So enjoy the second half of this. I've got a couple of really interesting interviews set up for the rest of this month. One Swiss, another Italian, and I'm very much looking forward to those two interviews. So enjoy the second half of this, and I will see you on the next episode. So if I can just take you back one step. So you're on the education committee now for IASI, the Irish Instructor Association. How does what market exactly are you looking to match then? We were talking about the Italian system, the American system, whatever, trying to match the needs of their country and the needs of the people that are applying to their association. So what are you doing within IASI to match that need? Or what is the need within IASI, and what are you doing to kind of match that?
Trying to answer the question from the starting point, if you don't mind, and then hopefully I'm not going to go too long.
No, carry on. We've got all the time in the world, man.
A few years ago, the head of education of IASI at the time was Derek Tate, and along with Pete Gillespie, they were looking to get IASI into a place where the education pathway that was offered to members was at the highest standard possible. So by then, IASI was already recognized by ISIA, so the International Ski Instructor Association, for both the stamp and the card, which equates to level 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And they were looking to expand a little bit on their education offer, and that's why they got me involved, and along with Jamie Kagan, who today is also in the education committee with myself and Pete Gillespie.
Yeah.
So, frankly, that was it. The aim was, let's try to get people together so that we can offer an education that is valid and worthwhile and valuable for members, wherever members wants to go work. It could be Europe, it could be North America, or down under, Australia, New Zealand, which is still very popular, and where we have members going to work. And even though maybe it's a simple answer, but that was the core of it. How we got there was, as I said, by getting Derek got people involved with a different background. Jamie was an examiner for the Canadian system. I have the past that we talked about. Pete and Derek have been in the industry for decades, and so together we tried to put an education pathway, an offer that gathered all the elements that we could fit in, that made sense for members to go through and have and be proud of their qualification, one, and also put them in the best place, whichever market they would go to. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I answered the question?
No, it does. So it's kind of trying to be as multi-useful as possible, I guess, is what you're saying for the people. So the people that are coming into your system, they want options. Who do they tend to be? Who is your kind of typical member, if there is such a thing?
members that want to have their education, want to go through their education in English to start with.
Yeah.
Since it's delivered in English. We have different nationalities from Europe, mainly from Europe.
Yep.
And many are Brits. Many are also Irish. Luckily, there is a part of Irish instructors and Irish people that are involved in the association and wants to get into the ski industry, and are looking to get not necessarily be confined in one specific place, which is also probably why we don't have a hub somewhere specifically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know that, for example, Brits have always been attracted to France, and therefore there is a big attraction to that country. Normally, I'm using the Brits mainly because they are probably the biggest association that operates outside of their own borders. If you talk to an Italian, we're all in the same countries because we have the field games for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
While we don't, or IASI doesn't, because in Ireland the skiing is very limited. Then the world, if you open up, the world is your. And therefore, if that is what you're trying to cater for, then you need to come out with solutions that work broadly and worldwide.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about this exact topic the other day because I think if you were talking to, an average Swiss, they I don't suppose that they would even, or Swiss, or maybe an Italian, maybe you're the exception to the rule. Or whatever, like I don't think they would even necessarily. They'd look at kind of the British or the Irish systems, and they would look at it and go like, what is this? Like it's really, this kind of approach to looking very, very wide in terms of the possibilities of working anywhere. I think your average kind of Italian, Swiss, Austrian or whatever would do a Swiss, Italian or Austrian qualification and look to work in their own country or even in within their own village or something in the main. It's this sort of globalist approach is really unique only to a few organizations within skiing.
Yeah, and again is where you're from. If you are a rugby player in Italy, your inspiration is not to make to the national team. Is probably to be a professional athlete, paid and successful beyond Italy. I used to play rugby when I was a kid. If I were to follow the path, my maximum aspiration wouldn't be to play the Bologna rugby team, which is pretty average, I'm sorry to say. But for whichever team NZ. I mean, the dream of every Italian rugby player is to go to NZ and play NZ rugby or Aussie or British or whichever of the British parts you want to go and play. And so once you start looking from that perspective, it's fairly physiological. It's very normal that an Italian would not really think about going abroad and would look at foreign nations to go, oh, mate, you don't stand a chance. Yeah. Just like Italians don't stand a chance in the Five Nations. Born every year.
Yeah.
No exception.
That's all starting again soon, isn't it? Six Nations.
Six Nations. I even call it Five Nations. That's how much rugby want and two as an Italian. Low profile and watch the rugby match, but don't go out in the pub when if you are abroad or in the UK when the Italians are playing.
Yeah, but everyone loves to go to Rome. Everyone loves the trip to Rome, don't they? Yeah, that's the one.
All the Brits, with no exception, whether they're Welsh, Scottish, or English, or whatever, they always say, "Oh, but at least you tried. Good try."
Wow,
Thank you, boys.
Yeah.
And so, where is the surprise when a Swiss turns around or a French turns around and says, "Oh yeah, good try, mate."
Yeah.
In the ski industry, it's the same thing. It really is.
Well, yes. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think Alberto Tomba might have something to say about that. But yeah. Okay. So the idea, just to kind of finish off that section. So the idea really around the Irish Association now is to provide as many options as possible for those going through that system. So when they pop out of that system, because I'm not sure if everybody knows, I'm sure we've mentioned it on the podcast before, but at the top of the Irish system, you also have the choice of hitting the ISIA speed test or the Euro test, and those give you the option then, assuming you reach the highest level within the Irish system, to go into, either to have a French equivalence or a Swiss equivalence is essentially the purpose of those two options at the top of the level there.
Yeah, or even American full cert equivalent, or down under New Zealand.
Yes, sorry, that applies to the ISA speed test, right?
Yeah. If you are in Europe and you want to be recognized, especially now with the CTT, and if you want, we can talk about the CTT.
Oh, please no.
If you want to be working freely in Europe since 2019, you have to have the CTT. Therefore, there is much point to offer that. But if you're not from Europe and you still want, if you don't want to work in Europe and you're focused somewhere else, why should we look for an European only output? We may as well align with what the ISA requirements are and give you the option.
Yeah.
Therefore, ISA card includes the ISA speed test now, and there you are. There you go.
No,
it always felt very.
It's good that,
very logical.
Yeah.
And that we inherited it from the Derek Tate mindset and point of view, which, again, well, once it's logical, it's then easy to explain, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Let me now take you to your work. So you were, going back to when you were training training with all these kind of as a coach or a strength and conditioning coach for all of these professional athletes. That was running alongside your formation as a ski instructor. But your business now, so you do you still split your time between doing the two? And is that what your business now in Zermatt is? Are you working partly on that and partly on skiing, or what? How does it all piece together?
When I was 23, so a few years ago now, I had to make a decision on whether I wanted to be a full-time strength and conditioning coach or a ski instructor, or work in general in the ski industry, because I had requests for year-round jobs or more specific. I had to commit one way or the other.
Yeah.
I got an offer from the school I was working with at the time to move from out of Derbien into Zermatt to become a director of a school. He appealed to me, and so I accepted, and I became the technical director for the school at a fairly young age of 23. And that's how my ski coaching really started. Ski coaching in terms of training ski instructors.
Yeah.
I've done a few years there, and then moved to another school pretty much in the same role. And alongside with that, I decided to open my own company, mainly because it was easier to manage and it allowed me to place myself in a position that was more, in my perspective, was fairer. That way I could, having my own company allowed me to focus on ski instructor professional development to start with. And also I don't employ instructors. The instructors that train with me are not employed by me. They all work for another school, which is also the point of my company. I'm not a ski school. I have to be licensed at the ski school as a ski school in order to be able to operate legally in Switzerland, which is why I did that director course we talked about.
Yeah.
But I don't operate as a ski school at all. I don't market the company. We don't market ourselves as a ski school. And that allows me to be neutral, so that my and the company's interests are perfectly aligned with the ski instructor interests, as well as the ski schools that we work with. Because every time the instructor that we train succeeds in his exams, we both win. Every time they get a pay rise, we both win. Every time, the day they'll become examiners, we'll create a legacy. So we can be together in the journey throughout. And that's what we do now. My job is 90% of the time focused on professional development for ski instructors. In the summer, I left for a few years the strength and conditioning coaching because of the lack of time. And also geographically, I couldn't be based in Bologna anymore. The last couple of years, I started again to pick up the pace on that. Also because through the years, I got other qualifications, posture education, massage therapy, different specializations in nutrition and movement pattern abilities, so which that is a bit of a geeky side. So I can, I'm happy when I can coach people, whichever the environment is. And now that I can, I try to match the two year round, pretty much. But yeah, the main focus now is ski instructor training.
Okay. Now, if we can, I'd love to talk a little bit about, because when let me get my thoughts in order here. Well, I'd love to talk a little bit about what's important within skiing from strength and conditioning point of view, because I think often, I know it wasn't necessarily always the case, but let's say from an outsider's point of view, looking in, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the world, like the social media of the World Cup races and stuff, would have you believe that in order to ski well, all you would need to do is just get on the squat rack and get really, really, really strong. And that changed and pivoted a little bit recently, and you see a lot of guys doing a lot more work on kind of balance, agility, movement, that kind of stuff. In order to be, and I've personally gone away from, not that I was a particularly very much of a gym monkey anyway, but I've particularly gone away from that in recent years to more of a focus on quick feet and sort of general sort of overall core strength, but using either body weight or slightly weighted kind of general movements. And I wonder how you think about that in terms of skiing. Like, what is there for kind of ski instructor skiing? We're not talking about skiing at the highest level. We're talking, the World Cup level, or obviously. But what we're talking about ski instructor skiing is like, what is agility more important than strength, or would you say it's the other way around, or is there something I'm missing out of all of this?
Do you want the long or short answer?
Take your time. Take your time. I want to know what you know.
Maybe we can start from your question in terms of the parallelism you made with the World Cup and how that is perceived, or we perceived, and then what a ski instructor needs to go through. Briefly, the World Cup, elite athletes have gone from a training philosophy that lasted up until the beginning of the 80s, which was ski. To a great extent, gyms were not used that much at all. Weightlifting, generally speaking, in sports was not that common. And it was all about practice your sport, use a lot of drills on field, whichever sport you were in, skiing included. And then from the mid-80s, the world started changing, because we started, coaching-wise, we started picking up on how much you could achieve by lifting weights. And so that made the news. So people started saying, oh, Christ, we need to start lifting weights. And a lot of the prejudice that was around gyms and lifting started falling apart. Also because a lot of athletes started making a point of winning because of their strengths. Hermann Maier was one, which also recovered through what today we could call gym routines, just for the general public to give them a branded name. Alberto Tomba was another one that got famous for lifting, 250 kilos in a squat rack, 330, 340 on a leg press. But they will still do a lot of the balance stuff that today we see the top athletes doing in those circuits that are super crazy and they're really cool to watch. When we used to train Alberto after his retirement at the age of 40-something, could still jump a rope that was on my chest. I'm not too tall, but, standing still, he could just jump 1.5 meters-ish with no problem. Meaning that it wasn't just power, but there was also in a circuit. So there was also the agility component always had to be trained. I think now with the social media, we see a lot more of that. Also because it's more pleasant to watch. Watching something squatting, you can probably watch a weightlifter squatting and you'll be more impressed than a skier, even though it's still impressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know I do.
So, our perception has probably changed a bit also because of the exposure that we get as a general public, we get of what an elite athlete does. We also need to remember that what we see of what the athletes, the professional athletes do is not all out, because as a coach, I will never tell you what I do with my athletes. Not you might use it, but because I am competing with others that are trying to find the best setup for their own athletes in order to succeed. So there is a lot of jealousy in keeping secrets or keeping some things that maybe we all use. You still keep a secret from the others. To give you an answer on what instructors need, in one word, first, balance. Before getting lost in agility, strength, and so on, this is a sport of balance, and therefore you need balance. How much time you spend training balance compared to the rest? That is the first question that I would ask whoever athlete comes to me, or ski instructor comes to me, which is also what we talk about when we run the coaching theory, for example, whether it's for instructors in my training programs, or in this case also for IASI and so on. We need to start from balance, coordination, and then you have range of motion and flexibility. So how much your joints can range in your motion, and how much your muscles can be supporting that. And only after that is worthwhile pursuing your maximum agility and your maximum strength. Without these fundamental components beforehand, you're putting big wheels on a small engine car. There's no point in using Formula One wheels when you have a Fiat 500 car engine. That for me, that would be the first fundamental part. Then we can get into details of what else one should do, but there is a full branch of sports science which narrows down in periodization. What do you do if you have a plan? If you have an athlete and you need to train this athlete, first of all, you don't think in weeks or months. You think in at least a year plan, if not 3, if not 5. So how do you feel all that time? Do you just go skiing? No. Do you just do balance? No. So each time of the year you will be able to dedicate it to certain skills that need to be improved. And then you build a house, you build layers bit by bit that allow you to build your athlete around your needs. Ski instructors need to understand also which kind of season they're looking into. Are you looking to get 700 hours of teaching, and therefore your summer will need to be spent in a certain way? Looking to get your Euro test, so are you preparing a race or a series of races if you're not successful at the first attempt? Is different than going for your level 3, where you have the tech exam, the teach exam. You need maybe a season or 2 to prepare for all of that. Then you have your mountain safety, so you need a bit of touring, so you need stamina and cardio, or it depends on what needs you have, and therefore what you need to come up with in your training. And it's not just summer, but it also needs to be winter, and vice versa. You can't think about your sport being seasonal, and therefore you only train in the winter.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Very high expectation on your body to pick you up so quickly in such a short amount of time. You are effectively excluding half of your life, sport-wise, from the sport if you only train in the winter.
Yeah. So what you're effectively saying is that my training program getting ready for the winter in the summer, which is essentially riding my motorbike around in Italy, eating pizza and tiramisu, is not great preparation for the ski season.
I'm more than happy to come with you, since I am a motorbike myself. That would be a very good way to spend the summer, but possibly not
the best for skiing.
To get fit for skiing, yeah.
Well, no, to be fair, I changed it around this year. So what I do now, my personal routines, I play indoor 5-a-side football once a week. I do, and so I've taken my I don't go to the gym anymore. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I do, like you said, I try to do some stuff that looks a little bit like, fast feet stuff, and alternate that with like core strength, like things like farmers carries and that kind of thing, and that seems to be just enough to kind of keep the wolf from the door for me. But I don't do that much kind of out and out performance skiing anymore. Like I tend to spend my time teaching and cruising around the hill, but I wouldn't say I'm kind of training towards anything anymore. So I don't really have that need, to kind of build myself up into something that I don't need to be. I find that I ski better when I'm lighter. And so if I'm kind of sitting in the gym putting on like muscle mass and stuff, I get a much better result out of what I'm trying to do on the snow if I'm like 5 kilos lighter than I would be if I'd spent the entire summer in the gym. It's really it's really interesting because I'm trying to, the way that I've gone with my own skiing is that I'm trying to use the snow more. I'm not trying to force it anymore. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to kind of use my body more cleverly to position myself better over the ski, so that kind of my body does the work for me, rather than me trying to force everything into the snow or kind of use power. That seems to be the way that I've gone in more recent years. I'm more about trying to be skillful than I am trying to be powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that you introduced a very good point there as well. Where you're at with your career, and also where you're at with your past sport experience, how much you've developed of some skills over others, and also age. If you are 20, you by default will have an agility set point that is probably higher than yourself at 40.
Yeah.
The body tends to go more into, transforms itself into a aerobic machine as you get older, and therefore people tend to be appreciative more of their endurance training. Also because there is a mindset change. If you were the age, let's call that, imagine that you're 50 and you want to go through your level 3 and 4, you actually will need, you can't do what you are doing now that you finished your exams. You know what I mean? Your body, your requirements have changed for a very long, we can try to narrow it down a bit, series of things that need to be prioritized over others. You've already achieved your exams, therefore you don't have so much stress on that, so you don't need to train as much on that. You want to be more skillful, therefore feeling and being more agile will pay back more than being, as you said, heavier or stronger, because you already have the skill set on skis to perform. Didn't, then maybe we need to look at other things. And that's where the job of coaching, strength and conditioning, as much as ski coaching, becomes really interesting. Because you can't, if you want to maximize a person's performance level, you can't get an off-the-shelf product and just force feed it in everyone. Everyone must go through a bit more of an individual program, an individual customized routine in order to achieve the highest performance at each given stage.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm aware that I'm not giving you a straightforward answer, but it's because there is no actual straightforward answer. We can talk about either in very general and a very broad horizon on what things we compose, periodization and strength and conditioning coaching is about, but then we'll need to go into very specific, testing, let's see where is your weakness, what is your target, what age, what injuries you carry, and therefore we can then come up with a narrowed down answer. You see where I'm going with this?
No, I totally do. I think it's hugely interesting because like I said, that's how I would assume that it would go. But you do have a lot of people out there offering a sort of like a one-size-fits-all. I'm thinking of like gap programs and all that sort of stuff. There can't be that much individualization going on within those when you've got 8 people in a group, for an entire season. I can't imagine that it's that unique, and that's this kind of the different perspective that I'm looking for by speaking to you, because you've done strength and conditioning coaching for individual athletes, at the highest level. So this is kind of the answer that I am looking for. Everyone's needs is slightly different. It is exactly the same way as when you turn up for a regular ski lesson, right? And you say to the person, what is it that you're looking to do today? What are you trying to achieve here? And you've got to have that conversation with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as training a team. Whether it's a football team of 11 on the field or an American football team that is 70 plus, or a basketball team 5 on the court, you still have a team, but each one will have to be the coach or the coaching team will have to look at each individual and say, okay, we need to work on this a bit more, we need to work on this a little less because you're actually already skilled at this point of your career. For me, I'm aware that I'm limited to my experience, but when I ski coach, I also look a lot about the physical skills that people have. And it's not just, as we said before, it's not just strength or agility. Okay, you have a back injury. If you're not ungulating, it's probably because your back is hurting, or better. You are 50. Your range of motion in certain joints might be affected. How? Yeah. Okay. There's no point for me to insist on making you move in a range of motion or asking you to move in a range of motion that you don't have when I put you on my therapy bed.
Yes.
As an educator.
Yeah.
Therefore, I need to step back from the field work, take you in another environment, put you in another environment, maybe work with a physio, maybe work as a strength and conditioning coach, and fix that. And then the result on skis will happen because we unlock what the limiting factor was. A lot of times we might fall into, and it's the same with guests. If a guest has a block somewhere, it might not be a technical block. It might be a physical one. Could be that the guest is not balanced enough on the outside ski. So there's no point on trying to do a carving turn saying balance more on the outside ski. Maybe we need to take a step back and work just on balance in another environment that doesn't involve carving at all. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff, it's just applied differently, and maybe in this case, maybe it's a higher level because the performance needs to be more accurate, and therefore the level is higher. Yeah.
I'm with you. No, well, that's the kind of individual approach I think that are thinking about the sport really bring with them. It's interesting, for example, I had a family group at the weekend that there are certain, about the physical, we've talked about it on the podcast before, I'm sure, the physical differences between the way that men and women are aligned. And, not every ski instructor knows that. And certain, there were certain people in this family group that I was skiing with at the weekend, and they were trying to do certain things. And so, well, that particular thing just isn't an option for you right now. It's not an option to do with how you're built. But not everybody has that knowledge, and you go to certain places or certain ski instructors and stuff, and not everyone has kind of taken that much of an interest in their sport, and so they don't have the ability to kind of communicate that information to their clients, and that's why. Well, I don't know where I'm going with this point, but I think if you're interested in what it is that you're doing, and you're prepared to go out and seek this information, then it just makes you a better instructor or coach or whatever. But it's about having that interest in what it is that you do for a living, to make yourself constantly better, so that you're better in front of clients, right?
Yeah, is that little bit of I call it curiosity? Is that little bit of interest in going? I'm actually into this, and therefore, if you're open to trying to analyze what's going on, then you're more likely to be able to find the right solution that fits your needs in terms of jobs or performance that you want to achieve.
Yeah,
that was exactly why I ended up going into the posture educator course and profession, because the more I train athletes, the more the physio had to I saw the presence of the physio. Wherever you go in team coaching or professional athletes coaching, there's always a physio there. And it cannot be that this poor physio always has to fix the athlete that every few months or every few years breaks down. There must be a high ground that we can take in order to avoid injury or avoid physical limitations. And the sport industry has gone through this process, and which is why now in the last 10 years, we have a lot of interest in professional teams to employ a posture educator, or even a physio, or a physio with posture background. To teams now are investing a lot of time and money to put all their $1 million euros athletes through a period of posture alignment, because if we align you posture-wise, you're way less likely to get injured. Therefore, we're going to save money now. We're going to spend money now to save it later, because an injury is always going to be more expensive than preventative. Work.
Yeah, I do the same. Actually, I'm supposed to do the same. It's been a bit difficult with lockdown, but I see an amazing guy called Shane Proctor in Morzine. Hi Shane, if you're listening. And he kind of keeps all of my posture in line. Does amazing work, sort of from chiropractor kind of point of view, but it just keeps everything for me straight. And I do, the plan is now with him, because he's fixed my back so many times for me, just like, breaking down various. It's always at the start and the end of the ski season. We talked about it, I think, before. But the now we're going to put in place like a program of whether you need to be there or not. It's exactly what you were talking about. We're not here to fix problems anymore. We're here to kind of make sure that they don't happen.
Yeah.
So that you spend less time in an injured state, because it's just a waste of time, and it's physically a very draining thing to be injured. And it's just not a place that you really want to be,
Yeah, physically, psychologically, injuries always have an impact, and is also on the psychological part. Is also part of our job to make sure that injuries can be dealt with in a positive way, because injuries sooner or later will occur, and we need to support that, as in the recovery phase. But again, it's the collaboration is also another key point. personally, I've always been curious about things and an interest in learning more. Therefore, I try to broaden my horizon, at least by learning from different aspects of different angles of skiing as well as in general sport. But it's essential to be able to collaborate with people that we trust. So just like a coaching team is not composed just by technical coaches, but also by strength and conditioning coaches. Then you'll have the physios, then you have your sport doctor, then you have your dentist, because maybe you need teeth alignment in order to fix a posture issue, in order to increase the performance. Oculist, the doctor for the eyes, I don't know, orthopedist for the legs and feet and back. If ideally, which is what we try to do with Subzero Coaching, is to work with a broad range of professionals that can help each individual out depending on what issue arises. And it's a precious collaboration that you can build through your career. I'm very glad that I can count on different people, different professionals that I can send people to, because it's difficult to fit everyone's need. It's pretty much impossible. So offsetting this to another professional that is an expert in that field, then the important thing, which is the thing that told me a lot in sport, professional sport, is the result. The process is very important, but in the end, if the result doesn't come, we're a bit short. We grow during training is not just the technical skill that needs to happen, but also the personal growth of the person. But that needs to also be matched with results. Without results, without victories, you don't have a winning athlete. You don't have a winning car. A car that breaks down every few GPs is not a good car. Yeah. Which is another bit that I try to pass on, and we need to pass on to the younger generation as well, especially now that, well, not true. We always had every 20-year-old or teenager will be more likely to take risks. And it's fine, and it's fair, and is needed. We also need to teach athletes and instructors that we need to learn how to assess risks. Because, yes, you might be cool dropping cliffs or standing it and throwing backies, but if you break every second season or every season, you're not a winning car. That's all it is. Would you call a Ferrari or a McLaren that breaks down a winning car? No. No. It doesn't matter if every few GPs it wins. But if at the end of the championships you are in the mid-second part of the manufacturer, you're not winning. You're not going to win the overall at all. No. Oh yeah, but again, the beauty of this sport, of working in sport, I think.
Yeah. Since we've mentioned it, why don't we? I could talk to you forever, but I think we've got to limit this for the purposes. Otherwise, people are, they always complain to me that podcasts are too long anyway. But where can people find you if they want to come and ski with you and be coached by you in Zermatt? Where can people get more info about you?
Website-wise is subzerocoaching.com.
Okay.
There you find quite a bit of the details of what we do, and the kind of programs and long-term courses that we have. Nowadays, in the last couple of years, I've put myself more available for instructors also in the peak weeks, because there was demand and because that's where my interest sits as well. So there is also the opportunity to do private coaching. Now I'm based in Zermatt throughout the year, since COVID helped give me the chance to make that decision as well. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. And so in the summer I actually have way more time to go through private coaching, whether it's skiing or strength and conditioning and so on. We've been working online as well with good results. Quite frankly, now people are more used to that. So with fairly minimal human contact, face-to-face contact, we've been able to find good solutions, especially for the strength and conditioning. Skiing still needs quite a bit of face-to-face or ski-to-ski contact. But for what is the strength and conditioning is actually very much doable online or, remotely rather.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, look, thank you for taking the time out of your day to have a chat with me. I really, we've been trying to set this interview up for a long time. We've both been busy and it hasn't worked out, but I'm really glad that we finally had a chance to have a chat.
Been my pleasure, Dave. Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity of being here.